Hey, good Sunday evening, everyone. This is Mitch. Hope you guys have had a great Sunday, have had an awesome weekend as we come to an end of another weekend, about to enter our work week. Speaking of the weekend, I mentioned Thursday and Friday a few days ago that this weekend was going to be massive in regards to figuring out if the big changes we saw in the models last week were actually legitimate. Now, of course, we're not in real time. We don't know. We're not in the actual pattern change right now as I speak. But I can tell you, the model guidance, all models have done nothing but double down on the fact that we are going to have a substantial pattern change. Even the professionals are talking about that, from the National Weather Service, the Climate Prediction Center, local Mets. Everybody's beginning to chatter a lot on this. And I'm starting to think, and guys, you know I don't hype stuff up. You guys know that, especially you folks who've been watching for a while. If you're a first time viewer, I try not to do that, guys. I really do. But I really think this could be the best pattern longevity wise as far as wintry weather and cold weather that I've seen in December in about 10, 11, 12 years. And of course, my mind immediately goes back to December of 2010. And I think a lot of folks remember that as it was a white Christmas for a lot of folks in the deep south, the southeast, and then that huge day after Christmas snowstorm that crushed the mid-Atlantic and northeast. Now, I'm not saying we're going to have a white Christmas in the south, guys. Please don't think that's what I'm saying, but I'm telling you, once we get this big system out of the way at the end of this week, the cold air settles in and it stays settled in, guys. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to talk about the severe weather threat, this storm system that I just mentioned, the blizzard impacts from it, the severe weather for Tuesday, which I have a little bit of good news for that, for you folks worried. And then we're going to talk about the potential for a big winter storm in the Northeast and if it's going to affect them big cities along the I-95 corridor or not. And then stay tuned. Towards the end, we're going to speak on that pattern change and just all the energy flying around that could really get mixed up with some cold air. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly always consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. I appreciate the support. Last night's video was one of the biggest, well, it was the biggest video of the 2022 fall and winter season so far. So I know that these videos are starting to get out there a little bit more. So I really appreciate you guys, supporting me. And if you're a new viewer, it's a family type atmosphere, and we pray for one another. We look out for one another here. And if you guys got anything that I can pray about, pray over, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. Still feeling a little under the weather, guys, but I feel better now than I have in the last few days, so I can tell I'm getting to the end of it. But if I do cough in the video at all, I do apologize ahead of time. Getting through it. It's been just an uneventful weekend. I didn't get a lot of stuff done that I need to get done, but anyways, back to the weather here. Let's take a look at this system. We'll take a look at the broad view of how it unfolds. So here we go. Getting into Tuesday morning, snow developing, snowing very hard in the Dakotas all the way to Nebraska. The snow picks up as we get into this coming Tuesday evening, 48 hours from now. Heavy snow, strong winds, blizzard conditions. At the same time, you have severe storms, probably some kind of line of storms. We're in range of the short range NAM now. So we can actually start to really see what is going to be the storm mode to these storms down here. And it's starting to look like it's going to be linear, but we still got 48 hours of trending that we can do in the wrong or better direction, if that makes any sense. Severe weather ongoing, then we'll have a little bit of severe weather for the Gulf coastline. But then this gets down here, and some ice begins to show up in the southern apps here, maybe as far southwest as Boone, North Carolina, Thursday morning. We'll get a closer look at that here in a second, guys. So just give me a second. And I promise you, we will talk in depth to everything. So here comes this system, GFS. The European looks a little bit different. A lot of heavy snow. But along the immediate I-95 corridor from Washington, D.C., the mid-Atlantic cities, and the northeast cities along the I-95 corridor, when I say that, I mean Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Baltimore, New York City, Boston. It looks like it's going to stay all rain as of now, but we still got a few more days of trend. And then this trending, and then this moves through. And then this is when the big pattern change settles in. So let's talk about the severe weather first. I just showed you the storm in a more broad sense of how it's going to unfold. We have an enhanced risk. That's level 3 out of 5. That's a big deal. But the good news is all the chatter on all the severe weather, this really had a high ceiling at first. But I really think the positioning of the low pressure and the lack of moisture return, meaning not a lot of low-level moisture jolting as far north as maybe we thought it was maybe about 3 or 4 days ago. This is kind of, the chatter on this is kind of simmered down in a good way. But we got another about 24, 36 hours to watch this to see if it jumps back up again. But you still got the enhanced risk down here for northern Louisiana, southern parts of Arkansas. Then you got to watch out in the slight risk too. I've had a lot of people ask about Texas, numerous cities in Texas. Basically, the further east you live in Texas, the more you need to watch out for severe weather. The further west you live in these areas right in here, the less you have to worry about. I know that seems really simple, but in the way it kind of is. But I really think the line of storms will move through this area maybe as early as Tuesday morning. And really, we're not going to take a look at the dynamics and the parameters going into this. We're just going to take a look at what most of the audience wants to see and just show me how these storms are going to develop. So low pressure up here, snow in the cold side, obviously. And then we're going to start this Tuesday morning. You got a line of storms hitting. It's kind of a broken line into Oklahoma City, down here in Dallas. Storms begin to move in probably sometime mid to late Tuesday morning, give or take a few hours. And then if you look right here, we stop it. This is around Tuesday early afternoon. If we're going to get some dangerous storms, it's going to be in a sector of warm, moist air right into here where the dynamics are really beginning to spike. The Cape, the fuel to these storms, the low-level moisture dew points into the 60s, and what kind of kinematics do we have as far as the wind energy? That's going to be the highest right here. But do we have a development of what we call prefrontal storms? If we don't, then all we got to worry about is this line of storms. And I'm not trying to tell you guys the line of storms associated with the severe weather threat is going to not be a big deal. But if this is the only thing we have to worry about, that's good. Because if anything gets going in front of this, and you can see little individual cells out in front of the line, but anything gets going in this sector right here, then we need to worry. But right now, it looks like just a broken line of storms moves through northern Louisiana. The bad news is right now, the NAM wants to say that this is going to move through after the sun goes down. So the enhanced risk area looks like it's going to be for an area when the sun goes down Tuesday night. So please have a way to get alerts. But this just looks like a line of storms as of now. But this can change. Little Rock, it rolls through y'all's area maybe 7 to 9 p.m. Same thing with kind of Shreveport, maybe a couple hours early. And then it starts to knock on the door of Jackson, Mississippi, Memphis, maybe sometime in the wee hours of the morning. But right now, personally, my personal take, I'm not overly extremely concerned about the severe weather threat. But I have seen these things change in a dime. I really have. So continue to tune into this. Don't take that update as the final update, if you get what I'm saying. So we got the snow falling. Some beautiful videos I've seen up in the Northeast of the snow falling on the Christmas lights. Many winter weather advisories. It seems like the snow has gotten a little bit further east than maybe what previously people thought, like me. So that's good for people who want to see snow. But look at here. You got the blizzard warnings in this red right here. So this is going to be a blizzard for a lot of people. We still got winter storm watches up for these areas. I'm not sure why this hasn't got upgraded to a winter storm warning, but I don't question the professionals. But I'm sure this will get updated sometime tonight to winter storm warnings all in these areas right in here. But you already got blizzard warnings up. So let's take a look at this system. And I know I left you guys hanging up here this morning, but here it comes. We're getting into Monday afternoon, Monday evening. Tuesday morning, I'll stop you here. Not only heavy snows falling in northeast areas of Colorado, western Nebraska, and then these areas, especially here in western South Dakota, but it is blowing around. That's why you have blizzard warnings in these areas. This is very, very heavy very, very heavy snow, especially with such a strong surface low right here. The precipitation associated with this is going to be very dynamic, very heavy. Wouldn't even be surprised if some lightning or thunder pops off with this. But this continues to go throughout Tuesday evening. You get into Wednesday morning, it's still snowing into the same areas. I'll go all the way to Thursday morning. It is still snowing in some of these areas, guys. So this is going to have a length of time associated with this. And you go all the way out to Friday morning, still snowing. 48 to 72 hour event of it could just be snowing at least on and off straight. Look at the winds in this area right here. We go all the way to Tuesday morning when the snow begins to crank up here. I'll stop it right here. It is pouring down, snowing in these areas right here with the potential for 30 to 49. I am so sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I tried to hold it in. But the potential for 40 to 50 mile per hour winds, gust in these areas. But you stop it right here. This is for Tuesday morning. And like I said, 30, 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts in these areas with very heavy snow falling. And if I was to keep it going up here, just make sure we get this in motion here. And we start to get into Tuesday afternoon. I mean, winds still gusting to 40 to 50 miles per hour in this area in western Nebraska and then western areas of South Dakota. And I know I'm not talking about Wyoming too, but certainly there also for eastern Wyoming. So this is going to be a blizzard in certain areas, and I definitely expect some blizzard warnings to get expanded probably over more counties in this region of the country. So as far as how much snow can fall, guys, this is the National Weather Service through Wednesday evening-ish. And, I mean, we got over foot snowfall totals. There's this weird gap right here, which I don't quite understand, but it's hard to believe this weird gap here. But anyways, you know, the Dakota is getting slammed, but especially South Dakota, Montana getting hit very hard, especially the entire eastern, especially southeastern areas of Montana. And then, you know, this has trended to a rather significant event for areas of Nebraska. It really has. And then we go over to the areas of sorry guys, I'm struggling to talk, but areas to the Great Lakes region, the North Midwest, if you will, the North Central U.S., and then you got almost a foot snowfall total showing up in areas of the UP and Michigan, northern Wisconsin, and then a lot of snow showing up in northern Minnesota, up here in northeast Minnesota, lake enhancement probably helping that out a little bit. So keep on going here, and the next thing we're going to talk about is this big system potential for the eastern U.S. This storm has certainly did some back and forth over, well, really it's went one way over the last, I would say, 24 hours or so. And, you know, there was some big runs yesterday that made a lot of people along the I-95 corridor from Washington, D.C., all the way up to Boston excited if you're a winter weather fan. But since then, the low pressure has trended a little bit further north, and there's just not as much cold air linking up with this in a fast enough time, and this lake's low isn't favorable. There's a lot of weird things going on, and it's kind of went back to what it was showing previously, but this still has the potential to be a big winter storm for the Northeast. But how close does it get to the big cities, you know, in the southern New England areas and the Northeast in general? That's a big question. How close does it get to New York City, Boston? And this is for Friday morning. But one thing we need to be concerned about is this ice right down here. We need to certainly be concerned about this. It might start as early as Thursday morning and then get into Friday morning. A lot of heavy snow showing up for the interior Northeast. But how close is this to the actual coastline? It's a big question. This is the GFS run. GFS run gets this run, and still this is around Friday midday. And then we're getting into Saturday morning, and then the system heads on out, and there might be some more moisture that funnels in behind it. Now, if you look at the European is much more enthusiastic about a lot of ice pretty far southwest. Ice showing up as far southwest as Boone for Thursday morning. A lot of ice in areas of western Virginia, eastern West Virginia, and Maryland. Ice getting as far north as Pennsylvania. And this is a long duration ice event also. Getting into Thursday midday. Still icing in these areas, freezing rain falling, which is in the pink that you see here. This is getting into Thursday evening. If you're confused about the timestamps at all, look up here, FRI 16 DEC. That helps you figure out kind of what day we're at, what time frame we're at. And then we're getting into Friday morning. And, I mean, this is raining for all the I-95 corridor as of now. So this has trended a lot more warmer and more just rain instead of snow. But this still could be a big winter storm inland. And guys, if you live closer to the coastline, if you're just not happy about what you're seeing here, if you're in Washington, D.C., the Delmarva, New Jersey, etc., this could still change. But this is definitely heading in the opposite direction for winter weather fans in those areas. So, but this could be big, and this could have impacts for the pattern behind this. I'll talk about that here in a second. But as far as how much snow, this is the snow falling right now and what's already fell. But here comes the system. This is the blend of all models with this system. Remember, this is also including the snow that's falling right now. And remember, I think it was last night, I was showing you guys, it was showing, you know, almost a foot and a half of snow in areas of Pennsylvania. Well, it's only showing about 3 or 4 inches in those same areas now. So it just tells you guys that you know, these models, don't take them for gospel on one run. Don't. The blend of all models didn't show that much, but the European one to drop almost 2 feet of snow in areas of Pennsylvania was wild. But we need to watch this because this could shift back. But for now, this is shifting to more of an interior northeast snow. But one thing we do need to watch is the ice, especially if the European is correct. The European has a lot of ice in these areas. The blend of all models blends all the model data together, and not quite as much as what the European's showing, but like I said, it blends all of it together. And some of these little pockets of a 1/4 inch or maybe almost a 1/2 inch of ice, you got to watch out for. It's trending a little bit higher in certain areas in the higher elevations of western Maryland and West Virginia and in Virginia too. So we need to watch out for this factor on this. Not a lot of people are talking on. So for my people who have tuned in, wondering what's going to happen with this pattern change, what's going to happen after this storm system, which I'll be completely honest with you, that is, in my opinion, what I'm most interested in. And also, well, we'll take a look and we'll start off like this. 8 to 14 day temperature outlooks came out today. This takes us from the 19th to the 25th, right to Christmas. Below average temperatures predicted for almost the entire country. And you're starting to get these darker blues that come in these areas, which means that the chances are higher for below average temperatures. Guys, it's really looking like, I'm telling you, it's going to be cold all the way through Christmas and maybe even after too. One thing, you look at this too. See how you got these below average temperatures down here, but you mix that with the same time frame, you got a chance for above average precipitation also. So, that kind of tells me that, hey, there is a chance that we can mix some cold air with some moisture down here in the south. We just might get some winter weather, potentially for areas further south. Now, for who? Who knows? But I can tell you, some of these runs you're starting to see on some of the models, especially the crazy GFS, is really starting to at least show the potential, the pattern that really could develop after this storm system moves through later this week. So we'll show you just that. We'll take a look at the GFS. And guys, I do apologize. There's been a lot of breaks I've had to take in this video. Throat keeps getting really dry. I feel great, but my throat is just really dry. So I've had to pause the video many times. So I do apologize for that. But looking at what's going on after this storm moves out, and then look at that 540 line. Just think of that as that's a lot of cold air coming down, and especially aloft. But look at the moisture starting to creep into the picture. This moisture doesn't make it, but if you look down here, there's a little bit of blue in Louisiana. That just tells you that, it's cold enough to snow, and not just in northern Louisiana up near Shreveport, but, southern areas of Louisiana. This moves through. Cold air has settled down. This is getting into the end of next weekend, so it's pretty far out, about 7 days out. We keep this going. Not a whole lot going on, right? But listen, the cold air is not a fleeting air mass. This is entrenched into the region, has dropped down, and you keep this going, and then here comes another system, and it looks like you got a big cold air damming setup. Now look, we're 246 hours out, very unreliable time frame, but look at the date, just a few days before Christmas. And look at this major winter storm that pops up, delivers a big-time ice storm for the CAD regions of North Georgia, upstate South Carolina, just a major winter storm. 24, 48 hours before Christmas will cause a lot of issues, but it's really far out. And the reason I'm just showing you this is to tell you that, first off, anything 7 days out, really anything 5 days out, but anything 7 days out is anybody's guess. One thing we can tell you is the pattern is going to be great for cold weather and some moisture in an active southern jet. So you keep this going, and you've got another system coming up right for Christmas Eve. Just think of this as that the pattern, guys, is looking very, very active, folks. It really, really is one of the best patterns like I've seen in almost 12 years. And then you look at the cold air dropping down with this in response. We're getting into next weekend. Cold air begins to ooze through. You finally get your widespread freezes back in place in the deep south. Cold daytime temperatures next Saturday. And this is the GEFS, so, a reliable thing to use. But look at these high temperatures potentially up in the northern plains in the single digits, freezing, reaching almost to the Gulf Coast. And it's just cold air begins to really settle in over the foreseeable future, guys. You mix that, you look at the anomalies compared to the average. This is probably the best GFS ensemble of this weekend so far. The coldest one is what I'm trying to say for winter weather fans. Remember, I like to speak on behalf of all winter weather fans, so I do apologize if y'all don't like that, because I know not everybody likes cold weather. There's probably more people who dislike it than like it. But really going forward, I mean, we're getting into next week at this point, basically the week before Christmas, and the cold air looks to just dominate for the foreseeable future, guys. It's pretty impressive. And then looking at this, what you're looking at here is the streamlines at 250 millibars. So it's on average right around where the active jet would sit, where the jet stream would sit. Notice how this jet starts to sag south after we get past this system. So that tells me that low pressure tracks are probably going to track somewhere into this area right into here, down here, maybe up here. But the southern jet becomes active, and then we have to watch for pieces of energy that flies down and mixes with this cold air on top. When you look at the pattern here, really what sets up here on the GEFS is if I stop it right here. This is for next Monday afternoon, the December 19th, the last Monday before Christmas. You got troughing in the east, cold air in the east. You got a ridge building in the west, that positive PNA you'd like to see if you're in the eastern U.S. and you like cold weather. And then you got a negative NAO, not a strong one, but it's there. So that allows for somewhat of a cross-polar flow and a great pattern leading right up to Christmas. So if you're wondering about how much snow am I going to get, Mitch? Well, I don't know. But what I can tell you is the ensemble run all the way up to Christmas, it's not going to show much. There's not much support, and we don't expect this to show much support. There's a little bit of a support right here in the deep south. But you look at the EPS ensembles right here, and, there's a little bit more support further south. But changing times ahead, guys. There really is. And stick with me with this because there's some wild stuff I think that's going to come up over the next 2 weeks. But thank y'all for bearing with me with this video. Thanks for dealing with the coughing. And hopefully we'll be back and ready to go and healthy tomorrow. I certainly feel like I am going to be. God bless all y'all. Hope you guys had a great weekend, and I'll talk to you in the morning.